Hey there, nostalgia lovers! Welcome back to Nostalgia Area. Today we're taking a bumpy ride down memory lane, literally, to explore some of the most dangerous old car features that no one in their right mind would want back. Sure, vintage cars have charm, style, and more chrome than a 1950s diner. But let's face it, they also came with quirks that could land you in the hospital or orbit. Let's kick things off with something that'll make modern drivers gasp louder than a carburetor backfire. No seatbelts. Early cars didn't have any seatbelts. Safety back then meant holding onto the dash and saying a prayer. When belts did arrive, they were just lap belts, basically a ribbon around your waist that said, "Good luck." It wasn't until the late 60s and 70s that we got proper three-point belts. So, next time your seatbelt beeps at you, thank it. It's the reason you're not a human cannonball. The days before collapsible steering columns. Back in the early days of motoring, steering columns were rigid metal rods. If you were unlucky in a crash, your car didn't just betray you, it shish kebabbed you. Yikes! It wasn't until the late 1960s that manufacturers began installing energy-absorbing steering columns that could collapse upon impact, significantly reducing the amount of driver kebabs. Who doesn't love a cozy bench seat? These wide, flat seats stretched across the entire front row of the car, making it easy for passengers to slide around, literally. While they were great for snuggling up with your sweetheart at the drive-in, they were a nightmare for safety. Without proper bucket seats and seatbelts, passengers could be thrown around like rag dolls during sharp turns or sudden stops. Modern cars are designed with crumple zones, areas that absorb impact and reduce the force transmitted to passengers during a crash. But back in the day, cars were built like tanks with rigid frames that transferred all of the energy of a collision directly to the driver. Sure, those classic cars look tough, but in reality, they were death traps in a high-speed crash. Before disc brakes became the norm, cars were equipped with drum brakes, which were less effective. The problem with drum brakes was that they overheated faster than a toaster at a waffle festival. Try going down a steep hill in the rain with drum brakes, and you're basically in a four-wheeled soapbox derby with consequences. Speaking of brakes, how about the lack of ABS? Without anti-locking braking systems, older cars were prone to skidding during hard braking, especially on slippery surfaces. Drivers had to learn the art of pumping the brake to avoid locking up the wheels and losing control. ABS became a game changer, helping drivers maintain steering control during emergency stops. Imagine being in a car crash and slamming into a solid metal dashboard. That was the reality for drivers and passengers in the early days of motoring. Unlike today's padded and energy-absorbing dashboards, old cars featured hard metal surfaces that offered zero cushioning in a collision. It's no wonder that head injuries were so common back then. Hood ornaments were all the rage in the early to mid-20th century, with many cars featuring elaborate designs. These ornaments looked cool, but turned into medieval weaponry in a crash. Eventually, regulations were introduced to phase out dangerous hood ornaments or require them to be designed in a way that reduced the risk of injury. Believe it or not, headrests weren't always a standard feature. In fact, they didn't become mandatory in the United States until 1969. Without headrests, rear-end collisions often resulted in severe whiplash injuries. Say goodbye to your spinal alignment and hello to your chiropractor. Today, headrests are an essential part of car safety. Airbags are a life-saving feature we now take for granted. Kind of like that one friend who always has snacks but never gets thanked. Early airbags were like surprise parties, loud, aggressive, and sometimes injurious. They didn't become widespread until the late 80s and 90s, by which time engineers had dialed back the enthusiasm from exploding whoopee cushion to gentle safety hug. Nowadays, airbags are so sophisticated, they use sensors to calculate the perfect deployment. The term suicide doors might sound dramatic, but these side-hinged rear doors earned the nickname for a reason. They open from the front edge, making it easy for the wind to catch them and fling them open while driving. One wrong gust and whoosh, you're airborne like Mary Poppins, minus the umbrella. Convertibles and certain hardtop models from the 50s and 60s often lacked adequate roof support. In a rollover accident, it was you versus pavement. Spoiler, pavement wins. Modern cars are subjected to rigorous roof crush tests to ensure they can withstand the force of a rollover. Today's cars come with a plethora of child safety features, from latch systems for car seats to rear door child locks. Back in the day, the child seat was a parent's lap in a vague sense of optimism. Forget car seats or door locks, kids bounced around the back seat like lottery balls. It's a miracle anyone born before 1980 survived a family road trip. Crank windows were quaint until your car ended up in a lake. Then it was you versus a stubborn window and 10 seconds of breath. Power windows, which became more common in the late 20th century, made it easier to escape in such situations. Older cars often had blind spots so massive, you could lose an entire minivan in them, thanks to roof pillars thicker than a 70s mustache and windows smaller than a drive-through milkshake. Unlike today's cars, vintage vehicles require drivers to rely on pure instinct and a good prayer. Parking and lane changes became high-stakes games of peekaboo, where the prize was not hitting anything. Ah, the good old days, when driving was part skill, part optimism. Old vacuum-powered wipers worked great, unless you were driving. The faster you went, the slower they wiped. Rainstorm at 60 miles per hour? Time to squint and guess where the road is. Modern electric wipers are far more reliable and efficient, providing clear visibility in all weather conditions. It might surprise you to learn that rear view and side mirrors weren't always standard in early cars. This meant that lane changes were a leap of faith. Want to pass someone? Just close your eyes and feel the vibes. Eventually, mirrors became standard, but it took some time before they were mandated by law. Older cars sometimes place fuel tanks in the rear impact sweet spot, aka right where other cars love to hit. These poorly placed tanks could rupture and cause a fire or explosion, posing a significant danger to the vehicle occupants and others on the road. The Ford Pinto became infamous for its fiery personality. Fuel tanks today are better protected, which is great because we all prefer not to drive rolling Molotov cocktails. Vintage headlights were basically two flashlights with low self-esteem. Driving at night felt like navigating by candlelight. Want to see 10 feet ahead? Too bad. Hope your instincts are good. Today's vehicles use advanced lighting technologies that significantly enhance visibility and safety, ensuring that drivers can see and be seen more effectively on the road. Finally, let's talk about suspensions. Many old cars had overly stiff suspensions that made for a jarring ride. Every pothole was a surprise dental exam, and sharp turns felt like the vehicle was debating whether to stay on the road or audition for a stunt in The Fast and the Furious. Thankfully, modern suspensions have learned the art of compromise. Like a good therapist, they absorb life's bumps while keeping things firmly under control. And there you have it, folks. A wild ride through the dangerous old car features no one wants back. Sure, vintage cars have their charm, But when it comes to safety, we've come a long way. So next time your modern car beeps, buzzes, or nudges you back into your lane, take a moment to appreciate just how far automotive technology has progressed. Got any memories of driving one of these old beauties? Share them in the comments below, and as always, thanks for joining us on this nostalgic journey.